Have you ever tried using ChatGPT or another AI tool to write something and thought, why does this sound like a robot wrote it? I certainly have. AI is great, but nobody wants to read generic, bland writing that just doesn't sound human. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to make AI-generated content sound like a real person wrote it. I'm going to share with you 6 super simple tips I use every single day. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to get AI to do the heavy lifting while keeping your content engaging, relatable, and most importantly, human. And if you think AI is confusing, don't worry. I promise I will keep it simple. If you're new here, I'm Aga. On this channel, I share my best tips to do with content, AI and productivity. So if you're a content creator, marketer, communications professional or copywriter, this channel is for you. So don't forget to subscribe and let's get this video started. So one of the biggest wins when making AI generated content sound more human is plain English. If you're only just starting out with ChatGPT or a similar AI tool and you haven't refined your prompts yet, then the text that you generate using those tools will often sound unnecessarily flowery and full of cliches. So the 3 tips I'm going to focus on in this part of the video are to do with removing flowery language, avoiding common cliches, and writing for a lower reading age. So this is something you can do either at the prompt stage or when reviewing the text that's been generated by AI. So I usually do this at the beginning by including something like write this in plain English in the prompt, and then again when reviewing the text to make sure that it sounds right. So I'm going to show you what I mean. So let's see what it comes up with. I'm obviously going to use very basic prompts. You will obviously be adjusting those prompts based on what you learn, and the more you use ChatGPT or AI in general, you will learn how to do that. But write 2 paragraphs about the benefits of healthy eating. You can see that these paragraphs are not written in plain English. So we've got words like these nutrients help reduce the risk of chronic diseases. That's quite wordy and obviously not very plain English. Then we've got things like beyond physical health. That is again a phrase which is not very plain English itself. Proper nutrition also enhances cognitive function. So this is not bad. It's not terribly flowery or anything, but let's just see what happens when we actually change the prompt to writing in plain English. So we're going to just paste that prompt, or we don't actually have to do that, but I've done this here. Use plain English. So let's see what it comes up with. Okay, eating healthy helps your body stay strong and full of energy. This is exactly the kind of thing that you would say to a child so they understand it. And I know it sounds a bit patronizing when I put it that way, speak like you're speaking to a child, but actually it is a helpful way of thinking about this. Healthy eating is also good for your brain and mood. Exactly. You don't have to say things like, it enhances your health. Just say it's good for it. So this is a great prompt. If you just add it at the end of your prompt, say write in plain English, it will make things a lot clearer and a lot easier to read. The next thing you want to do is you want to avoid overused cliches. So if you have used ChatGPT or another AI tool before, I'm sure you've noticed that there are certain words and phrases that come up over and over again. Words like leverage, elevate, cutting edge, delve into. It just sounds bland, generic, and corporate. So to make your AI generated text sound more human, you want to avoid those cliches or replace them. So again, this is something you can do at the prompt stage by including a list of words and phrases that you want to avoid, or you can do it when reviewing the content at the end. So let me show you how to do that. So I'm just adding a simple prompt. Write 2 short paragraphs about how the new training program is transforming how employees are learning. It's definitely going to come up with something very corporate. Okay, so we can already see words like revolutionizing, enhances. It sounds very ChatGPT to me. So we're going to change this prompt slightly and we're going to ask it to rewrite this text but avoid the following words. So you can actually list the words that you don't want to be used. So as you're refining those prompts, as you're learning more about using ChatGPT or other AI tools, you will know what those words are. And obviously every word has a purpose, so sometimes you might want to include it. You can see that it's replaced revolutionizing with transforming, which is again not amazing, but it's better. So now we're rewriting it using plain English, and this is actually my favorite version. So it's changing the way, so it's not transforming or revolutionizing, it is actually changing, which is the plain English equivalent. One prompt I sometimes use is I tell ChatGPT or another AI tool to use an understated British tone of voice instead of American English. So this is a great hack, not only for those of you in the UK, but generally those of you who are outside the US. Because if you haven't refined your prompt, if you haven't used ChatGPT before, you might find that the tone of voice is slightly off. It sounds a little bit American. Let's see what I mean by that. So we're going to write a short paragraph for a leaflet inviting local residents to a new exciting leisure centre that's just opened. Okay, exciting news. Come along for a free tour, but we want to make it sound a little bit more understated. So we're just going to write in the prompt, we write this using an understated British tone of voice. So we've got a slightly more British way of saying this. Drop by for a look around. We'd love to welcome you. That sounds a little bit more understated and there's no kind of overexcitement in it. The next tip is about writing for a lower reading age. In one of my online businesses, which is about helping English learners with grammar, one of my unique selling points and one of the reasons I believe I have been able to grow to more than 1.5 million subscribers across social media is the fact that I use plain English, but I also explain things in a way that sound like I'm explaining things to a child. And I think the lessons from this are applicable to anyone who creates content of any kind. I know this can sound a little bit patronizing, but trust me, if you make your content clearer, simpler and easier to understand, you're more likely to reach a bigger audience. So the next tip I've got for you is to write like you're writing for a 9-year-old. The average reading age in the UK is estimated to be between 9 and 11 years old. And that's why many public organizations and many newspapers, like The Sun, for example, which is the biggest daily newspaper in circulation in the UK, write for a 9-year-old. So let's see what I mean. Let's write something very generic. So write a couple of paragraphs about what a dental checkup involves, step by step. And you can see the paragraph is already very kind of scientific. It's quite complex. A dental checkup is a routine examination performed by a dentist. Wow, this is really complicated. So if I am going for a dental checkup, I might actually be put off by that. I might be like, I can't be bothered to read this. This sounds way too complicated. So we're going to rewrite this for someone whose reading age is 9 years old. And we're going to get a piece of text that is much more accessible. A dental checkup is when you visit the dentist to make sure your teeth and gums are healthy. I mean, that is what it is. So why not write this? And this is not just for 9-year-olds. It's for anyone who's reading your content. If you make it a little bit more plain English, you ensure that more people can access it. The next tip I want to share with you is to make it less generic. Add your own experiences, examples, anecdotes, opinions. Call it your secret sauce. Also, another great way to make AI-generated content sound more human is by adding cultural references, references to geography, customs, history. So if you're a marketer, copywriter, communications professional, This is your way to create content that is more engaging and more relatable if you want to be more successful at what you do. And also, if you're in a corporate job, for example, it's your way to show that you are irreplaceable in the age of AI when you really need to make an effort to stay ahead of the curve. It's not enough to know how to use ChatGPT. You need to know exactly how to stand out among other people who are using it. Tip number 3, start with the user. So the first tip I'm going to share with you, I'm going to call it friendly prompts. Pretending you're talking to a friend down the pub, you're explaining something about your business or your work, and your friend has no idea what you're talking about. So you want to make it sound simple enough for them to be able to understand, and you want to have this conversational tone going on. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, so we're going to write content about the benefits of this yoga mat. So this is a bad prompt because it's super generic, and I just want to show you what it comes up with. So it comes up with the kind of most obvious of the obvious things that you can think of: non-slip surface, durability, easy to clean. Of course, it's something you could write about any yoga mat. But we're now going to write a prompt that is more personalized to a specific type of user. So this is going to be specifically a mum, and she's going to be able to refer to some things that are specific to mums, which will make this content look more relatable. Comforting her tired body because she's chasing kids, and super easy to clean because obviously if you've got toddlers running around the house and eating yogurts and various snacks throughout the day, there's going to be more dirt. So this is something you can talk about. The other trick is to give ChatGPT instructions about taking on a persona. So take on a persona of a yoga mum or a Shoreditch ad executive. Tip number 4, teach AI to imitate your style. You need to tell AI exactly what tone you want. If you don't, it will default to something really bland. Let's see what I mean. Write an invitation to a book launch party. So this is a generic piece of instructions for our intern. You're invited, join us for the launch. It's a night of celebration, inspiration, and stories. It sounds fine, but how many times have you read this kind of invitation before? So now we're going to rewrite it in a way that's aimed specifically at very young people who enjoy surfing and beach parties. So we're going to make it specific to that audience. So look at that. You can already see how different it is. Get ready to ride the wave of excitement. I don't know if that's how people speak. Personally, I'm a bit older, so I'm not sure, but you get the gist. Now we're going to rewrite it for a member of parliament. So this is going to be a very official letter, and we can see the language is quite official. It is with great pleasure that we invite you, and we would be honored to have you join us. So it is very different. So think of AI as a really smart intern. If you give vague instructions, you're going to get vague results. You can also train the AI by showing it something. Watch this. So let's see, write a professional email. That is not a good ChatGPT prompt because it's going to come up with something obviously very bland and generic. But it is a very formal email. You know, it could be written by anyone, but we're actually going to adapt this prompt. We're going to change it to make it sound like it was written by a specific individual. So the new prompt is going to be write an email that sounds like this, and then we give it an example of what we want this to sound like. So, hey Sarah, just checking in about the project, timeline we discussed. Okay, so we give it an idea of what kind of tone we want, and we can already see that it's come up with something infinitely more personalized. Or if you want to get even better results, you can feed some text you've written into ChatGPT or another AI tool and ask it to use the same style, phrasing, and tone as the text you've shown it. So now I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to ask ChatGPT to use the text below to write an article on a specific topic. So the topic is going to be, is French difficult to learn? And I'm going to actually show it an article that I wrote myself a few years ago about Spanish. So I wrote an article about whether or not Spanish is difficult. And all I'm going to do is copy and paste this article into ChatGPT. How hard is French to learn? Is it a question you're asking yourself? Yes, that is probably how I would start this. So it's basically rewriting this about a different topic, but using the same tone that I used in my original article. And it's even giving me some really good examples of French sentences like j'aime les langues, and it's talking about the R sound in French. So it's making it specific to that new topic whilst retaining the style that I asked it to use. Okay, my fifth tip is about fact checking and removing weirdness. AI is smart, but it's not perfect. Sometimes it makes things up. It's called hallucinations. If something sounds weird or off, just look it up. Make sure it's true. And the final tip is about reading things out loud. Because often when you're reading things in your head, it sounds fine, but when you actually hear it, it sounds very different. So AI might write, this approach will be beneficial for your business. But when you say this out loud, it just sounds really bland and corporate. So you can replace it with something like, this will help your business. Much better, right? And that's it. If this video helped you, make sure you share it with a friend, give it a like, leave me a comment and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.